The gentle creak of the old rocking chair filled the room as I settled in, my weathered hands clutching a faded photograph. It was a snapshot from decades ago. My daughter, barely knee-high, beaming up at me with gap-toothed enthusiasm. Now, she has children of her own, and I find myself pondering the intricate tapestry of family bonds that weave through generations. Time, that relentless force, marches on. Yet, in its wake, it leaves us with the most precious gift of all: the opportunity to forge connections that transcend age, that bridge the gap between young and old, that create a legacy of love and understanding. Building lasting bonds with our children and grandchildren isn't just about shared DNA or obligatory holiday gatherings. It's about cultivating relationships that flourish with time, nurtured by patience, understanding, and a genuine desire to connect. It's about creating a safe harbor in the storm of life, a place where unconditional love reigns supreme. So, how do we cultivate these precious connections? How do we ensure that the thread of family remains unbroken, even as the world around us changes at a dizzying pace? First and foremost, we must learn to be present without being overbearing. It's a delicate balance, like tending to garden. You want to provide enough care and attention for the plants to thrive, but not so much that you stifle their growth. Our children and grandchildren need to know we're there, a steady presence in their lives, but they also need the freedom to spread their wings. I remember when my grandson Jake was going through a particularly rebellious phase in his teens. Every conversation seemed to end in an argument, and I could feel him pulling away. It would have been easy to push harder, to try and force our connection. Instead, I took a step back. I made it clear that I was always there if he needed me, but I gave him space to figure things out on his own. To my surprise, it wasn't long before he started coming around more often, seeking out our conversations. He knew I was there, not to judge or to lecture, but to listen. And that brings me to our second point: the invaluable art of listening with an open heart. In our eagerness to help, we often rush to offer advice or solutions. But sometimes, what our loved ones need most is simply to be heard. To know that their thoughts, feelings, and experiences matter, that their voice has value. I found that the simple act of truly listening, without interruption, without judgment, can work wonders. It's about creating a space where they feel safe to express themselves, to share their joys and their sorrows, their triumphs and their fears. There's a beautiful alchemy that happens when we listen deeply. Not only do we gain insight into the hearts and minds of our children and grandchildren, but we also strengthen the bonds of trust and understanding between us. It's in these moments of genuine connection that the seeds of lasting relationships are sown. Now, while listening is crucial, there's also immense value in sharing. Specifically, in sharing our life stories. You see, each of us carries within us a treasure trove of experiences, a lifetime of lessons learned, of obstacles overcome, of moments both triumphant and humbling. These stories are more than just tales from the past. They're bridges that connect generations, that help our children and grandchildren understand where they come from, and perhaps gain insight into where they might be headed. I recall a day when my granddaughter, Emily, was struggling with a decision about her future. She felt torn between pursuing her passion for art and choosing a more practical career path. Instead of offering direct advice, I shared a story from my own youth. I told her about a crossroads I faced, where I had to choose between a secure job and the uncertainty of starting my own business. I described the fear I felt, the sleepless nights, the doubts that plagued me, but I also shared the exhilaration of taking that leap of faith, of following my heart despite the risks. As I spoke, I could see a light of recognition in Emily's eyes. My story didn't make her decision for her, but it gave her perspective, courage, and most importantly, the knowledge that she wasn't alone in her struggle. That's the power of sharing our stories. They inspire, they teach, and they create a sense of continuity that strengthens family bonds. But building strong connections isn't just about sharing our world. It's also about embracing theirs. The world our children and grandchildren inhabit is vastly different from the one we grew up in. Technology, social norms, even the very pace of life has changed dramatically. It can be tempting to dismiss these changes, to retreat into the comfort of the familiar. But if we want to maintain strong bonds, we need to make an effort to understand and engage with their world. This doesn't mean you need to become an expert in every new trend or technology. It's about showing genuine interest, about being open to learning. Maybe it's asking your grandson to explain his favorite video game, or having your granddaughter teach you how to use a new app. Perhaps it's discussing current events from their perspective, or simply being open to trying the music they enjoy. I remember the day my great-granddaughter, Sophia, introduced me to the concept of vlogging. At first, I was baffled. Why would anyone want to film themselves going about their daily life? But as she explained her passion for it, showed me some of her favorite vloggers, I began to see it through her eyes. It wasn't just about recording mundane activities. It was about storytelling, about connecting with others, about finding one's voice in a vast digital landscape. By making the effort to understand and engage with their interests, we show our children and grandchildren that we value them, that we see them as individuals with unique perspectives and experiences. This mutual respect and understanding forms the bedrock of strong, lasting relationships. Of course, embracing their world doesn't mean we should lose sight of our role as elders, as sources of wisdom and support. Which brings us to another crucial aspect of building lasting bonds: respecting their independence while offering unwavering support. As our children grow, as our grandchildren begin to find their own paths, it's natural to want to protect them, to shield them from life's hardships. But true growth often comes from facing challenges head-on, from making mistakes and learning from them. Our role, then, is not to clear the path of all obstacles, but to be there to offer support, guidance, and comfort when needed. It's about creating a safety net that allows them to take risks, to explore, to discover who they are and what they're capable of. I think of my son, Michael, when he decided to start his own business in his late 30s. It was a risky move, especially with a young family to support. Part of me wanted to caution him against it, to encourage him to stick with his stable corporate job, but I saw the passion in his eyes, the determination in his voice. So instead, I offered my support. I listened to his plans, offered advice when asked, and most importantly, let him know that no matter what happened, I believed in him. That unwavering support, that belief in their abilities, can give our loved ones the courage to pursue their dreams, to face life's challenges with confidence. It strengthens our bond by showing that our love isn't dependent on their choices or their successes, but is unconditional and enduring. Now, while it's important to respect their independence, there's also great value in creating shared experiences, in establishing traditions that bring the family together. These don't have to be grand gestures or elaborate events. Often, it's the simple, consistent rituals that create the strongest bonds. Perhaps it's a weekly Sunday dinner, where everyone gathers to share a meal and catch up on each other's lives. Maybe it's an annual camping trip, where multiple generations come together to enjoy nature and each other's company. It could be as simple as a regular phone call or video chat, a time set aside to connect and share. In my family, we have a tradition of storytelling on birthdays. Each person shares a memory or a story about the birthday person. Over the years, these stories have become a tapestry of our family history, filled with laughter, tears, and deep love. It's a tradition that bridges generations, that helps us see each other not just as we are now, but as we've been throughout our lives. These shared experiences, these family traditions, create a sense of belonging, of continuity. They provide anchor points in the often turbulent sea of life, reminding us of our connections, our shared history, our love for one another. As we create these bonds, these lasting connections with our children and grandchildren, it's crucial to remember that our role is to be a source of joy, not stress. Life is challenging enough without adding unnecessary tension to family relationships. This doesn't mean always agreeing or never having difficult conversations. Rather, it's about approaching our interactions with love, with understanding, with a desire to uplift and support. It's about creating an atmosphere where time spent together is something to look forward to, not to dread. I think of my grandmother, a woman who lived through the Great Depression, 2 world wars, and countless personal hardships. Yet when I think of her, what I remember most is her laughter. The way her eyes would crinkle with mirth, the warmth of her hugs, the joy she took in simple pleasures like a cup of tea shared with loved ones. She had every reason to be bitter, to focus on the hardships she'd endured. Instead, she chose to be a beacon of joy, a source of love and laughter for her family. That's the kind of legacy I aspire to leave for my own children and grandchildren. In today's world, where families are often spread across great distances, staying connected can be a challenge. But it's a challenge worth overcoming. Whether through regular visits, phone calls, video chats, or even text messages, maintaining consistent contact is vital to keeping relationships strong. It's not about the quantity of communication, but the quality. A heartfelt message, a quick call just to say I love you, a handwritten letter sharing your thoughts and feelings. These small gestures can bridge any distance, keeping the bonds of family strong and vibrant. Throughout all of this, perhaps the most important thing we can offer our children and grandchildren is unconditional love. In a world that often seems to value people based on their achievements, their status, or their possessions, we have the power to create a space where they are valued simply for who they are. This unconditional love doesn't mean accepting harmful behavior or never setting boundaries. Rather, it's about separating the person from their actions, about seeing the inherent worth in each individual regardless of their successes or failures. When we offer this kind of love, we create a foundation of security and self-worth that can sustain our loved ones through life's ups and downs. We give them the courage to be authentically themselves, to pursue their dreams, to face challenges with resilience. As we near the end of our journey together today, I'm reminded of a quote by the poet Khalil Gibran. "You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth." Our role, as parents and grandparents, is not to determine the path of those arrows, but to provide the strength, the guidance, the love that allows them to fly true and far. The bonds we build with our children and grandchildren are not forged in a day. They're created through countless small moments, through shared laughter and tears, through quiet conversations and boisterous celebrations. They're strengthened by our presence, our understanding, our unwavering love. These connections we create, this legacy of love we leave behind, it's the most valuable inheritance we can offer. Long after we're gone, the memories of our love, the wisdom we've shared, the bonds we've nurtured will continue to influence and inspire future generations. So, my friends, let us approach each day, each interaction with our loved ones, as an opportunity to strengthen these precious bonds. Let us listen with open hearts, share our stories, embrace their world while offering the wisdom of ours. Let us be present, supportive, and above all, loving. For in the end, it's not the years in our life that count, but the life in our years. And what greater life can there be than one rich in love, in connection, in the joy of family bonds that span generations? So let us go forth and nurture these connections, for in doing so, we create a legacy that will echo through time. A symphony of love that will resound long after we've played our final note.